think I heard somewhere, read somewhere, why did Gio get called into camp? Did you guys hear any of that? Anyone? No. Well, I think he showed why he got called into camp. You know, amazing quality, amazing talent. And for us, it's about supporting him through the difficult times of adapting to the Premier League. But his quality is unquestionable when you see the plays he made on both the second and third goal. But I think most importantly, the ball he wins, right, and then makes the pass. He has that quality that not many players have, and it's clear that you know, he deserves to play on this team.
All right, the first thing I think about, boys, when I see that clip from Greg is, Mr. Berhalter, please hit like and subscribe when you're following and listening to our show. Because I think he's directly talking to a clip that we put out, the discussion that we had, specifically with you, Jesse Marsch, about whether we should bring in Gio Reyna into camp. And to give some context to everybody, we were just saying it from a culture standpoint and setting precedent. And he's not playing a lot for his club. He left off Brendan Aronson because he didn't play a lot for his club. Obviously, he got included later. So what do you think about those comments, first and foremost, from Greg? Because it feels like he's taking a shot at maybe you, if I just put it out there.
I thought it was taking a shot at you.
Me?
Yeah. But.
By why? Opening up the conversation?
Well, listen, he's wrong, first of all, right? Because we didn't say that Gio shouldn't be brought into camp. In fact, we made a list, all three of us, of all the players that we thought were locks that should be coming into camp, and Gio was on that, right? We were just having discussions, like you said, a little bit of, okay, when you're putting together a national team squad at any moment, and now you have to evaluate form, fitness, everything else, and what you need from the team. And we talk later about even understanding the togetherness and the mentality and the growth and development of the team really now continuing to push, not just from a football standpoint, but from a togetherness and real team belief standpoint. And to be fair, this is what we saw last night. You know, as much as the game wasn't anything that any of us, and I'm sure including Greg, would have hoped, is you still saw this American belief that helped us find a way to get the result.
And Big Tones, this is the first time you've seen that clip. What are your thoughts?
We were busy after the match last night calling another game, but the first thing that comes to mind is, what the hell is he addressing this for? Like, your team, I'm sorry, congratulations on the win. We just talked about it. Your team performed pretty poorly for 90-plus minutes, given what we expected. And this for me is a deflection. Right? So you did him a favor if he's talking to you or he's talking to anybody else, because this is a deflection. I don't understand how you can address this in a match. You're a national team coach, right? I'm always rooting for the national team. I know you guys are always as well, right? And we want the best for this team. But the reality is that he didn't address anything. I'm sure he addressed some of it in the press conference, but he clearly was thinking about something else that had nothing to do with what happened in the match, or how he was prepping for the match. Because I don't know, did they tell him before the match? Did they tell him after the match? Either way, he felt it important enough to address it in a moment where they almost got knocked out against Jamaica last night.
Against a weakened Jamaica.
And maybe should have. But to Jesse's point, credit to them, right? They battled, they showed the spirit. We talked about that. But I'm just surprised that you would go here on that night.
And really go out of your way to say, hey, I don't know if you guys heard about that. Like, he's telling a joke. Hey, you know, a couple people walk into a bar, and it's just a couple podcasters talking shop about what we think about the U.S. men's national team. I thought it was interesting that he went out of his way to discuss that. Now, when I think about the type of analysis that you give, Jesse, about the team and whether it's on the podcast or on the pre-game show, halftime show on Paramount Plus, you talk like you would, if you were in charge of the team, you would do X. Is that something you want? Like, say things don't go well for us in Copa America. Would that be something you would entertain, like, in reality?
The job?
Yeah.
No. No. I don't want that job, right? And so, and by the way, I think we've been very, our job, when I do this, okay, so I'm new to this media thing, and I do it because I want to continue to kind of be part of the game and support what's going on with U.S. soccer, and I'm a fan of U.S. soccer and of MLS and everything else. And so when I do this, I try to give insight as to the way I see things. Now, I don't think I'm always right, but I have opinions based on my experiences and the players I know and what I've seen and what I'm watching. And so I don't think that anything that we've really done as a podcast has been that unfair. I actually think we've been pretty supportive. And specifically when we're analyzing the players and how they play in Europe, we want them to be successful, right? We sit from like an analytical chair, but from a fan chair. And you know, like to see Christian Pulisic playing so well, to see Tyler Adams come back. I want to also talk about like watching the interview with Gio Reyna after the match and seeing how happy he was and the smile on his face. And this is what I want to see from our players, is that their personality, that they're enjoying their football, that they're enjoying what they're doing with the national team. And I think that will lead them to continue to be more and more successful. So, you know, even when we discuss Greg or the tactics or anything else, it's always about, are we maximizing what we're getting out of the team, and is the tactical model what we think is best for the group, and then analyzing it versus what Mexico looks like, or Panama or Jamaica. And this is, when I'm trying to provide something, that's what I'm trying to provide. So listen, I don't want anybody to take things too personally, because that's not what it's meant to do. We're just here trying to give a little bit of insight.
Now, Big Tones, just out of respect, would you take the job if it was offered to you?
Absolutely no. I don't want the job. But as a manager, right, you inherently expect somebody to say your team played poorly at some time. If not, it's like this is one big kumbaya, right? Like everything is great and everything is not great. Right?
Well, listen.
But there's an expectation. You lived it as much as any American coach ever lived it. So I'm just curious, when someone says something about you can't take that personal.
No.
Your job is to go and, now in this case for Greg, go worry about Mexico and how you beat Mexico in the final.
Listen, when you represent clubs, okay, I can't really talk about national teams as much, but you have a job to do in terms of the 360 holistic approach to doing the job, because the fans are watching everything. And by the way, the media part, especially when you're an American in England, and you could talk to Bob Bradley or myself and talk about the scrutiny, and it's part of the job. It's and by the way, all the coaches in the Premier League get scrutiny, right? But as an American, we have to understand that there's something that goes along with that. And by the way, I'm not afraid of it. You know, and if I need to stand in a press conference and talk about certain things and explain why I do things, and you have to always be prepared, I don't ever take it personally. I just understand that this is part of the job. And so I'm not, and by the way, again, please, you have to know, you can't be afraid. That's what it is. That's what it is. And you have to embrace it, and you have to understand how to use it the right way.
Well, if offered, I would take the job. I just want to throw that out there. And I would not be afraid to name names. Greg Berhalter, I'd be like, listen, Jesse Marsch, I got a problem with that guy, and if he wants to meet out in the street, we're going to make it happen. All right, let's move into Haji Wright, though. I thought Gio Reyna, obviously, especially in extra time where the team looked like they were relaxed and played the way that we wanted them to, and maybe in the style that we expected. We talked about it a little bit earlier. Gio was good and made the telling pass. And even when he came in a couple minutes into the second half, he made that pass to Malik Tillman that almost got there, that almost unlocked Jamaica, and maybe the result would have been different after 90. But let's talk about Haji Wright. He wasn't even supposed to be on the team. He wasn't selected initially. Josh Sargent has to withdraw because of injury, and now Haji Wright comes in and scores 2 goals. Unbelievable for him, who seems to be riding away right now, Big Tones, because he scored a lot of goals for Coventry in the championship.
Yeah, he's been on fire the last 6 weeks or so, and I think he came in more as a left-sided player, but he really, for me, played as a second forward, right? And I've been screaming for 2 forwards in this team and playing with 3 in the back for years ad nauseum, right? I want to see it, but you can see here that inside channel, and I thought Ricardo Pepi unlocked a lot of things for him. Clearly, a world-class pass from Gio Reyna here. Pretty good finish. Still had some work to do, but he's in front of the goalkeeper. Expected to finish that one there, and then Gio picks one off here, and another good. But again, he's in this inside channel. He really, I'm trying to think back, Jesse. Maybe you can remember. Think of a time where he played as a winger at any point in this thing. He really was a second forward, although he came in on the left-hand side based on the tactics that they were playing.
He started on the left, but then once they brought Brendan Aronson in, they moved him into the 2-striker role. And it's funny, you know, we talked about the Wolves match on the podcast, and I said that I thought overall I said there were like 2 performances, that there was the first 75 and then the last 15. And I said in the last 15, in the first 75, he was standing on the touchline too much in transition moments. He wasn't involved in running into the box. And that I always like to teach fast, strong players to be aggressive and look athletic and to use their athleticism to reward themselves. Then when they put him in striker, almost all he did at that moment was look to run in behind and now create problems for the back line of Jamaica. And now if you think about the relationship between him and Gio Reyna, for Gio Reyna to be successful, he needs somebody who really wants to run in and be off the back line and look to penetrate. And if you're Haji Wright, you need someone like Gio Reyna that can make that pass. So the combination of moving him into the striker position and then having Gio continue to float around and be in dangerous spots, because sometimes the midfielders for the U.S., they start drifting out wide in the buildup and they're not putting themselves in dangerous positions to play through lines, to make the kind of plays that make a difference. And for me, the best thing about Gio was that he came in the game, he put himself in difficult positions. He was like, give me the ball, and I'm going to find ways to make the next play.
Yeah, what I love about that first goal in particular from Haji Wright is the fact that the way he ran off the shoulder, the timing of the run. But as it pertains to Gio, it was a broken play. Christian ended up losing the ball. Gio's in a good spot, and that little hesitation, and then even the hesitation from Haji Wright when he's on the top of the box in a 1v1 situation. I'm going to take this guy on. I'm going to make something happen. That's confidence, and confidence is a hell of a drug, Tony. And I think that we need to see more of that. I know we're going to discuss, and we have another podcast tomorrow about our preview for Mexico, but I'm interested in, is that enough now for Haji Wright to maybe merit a start? And I know we have a question from some of our loyal listeners that's going to pertain to this.
Yeah,
let's tease them a little bit.
I think it's got to be a discussion, right? When you sit and you start the game plan for Mexico, I think absolutely it's got to be a discussion. There's a couple other positions on the field that I think they need to discuss for sure, right? But you oftentimes with goal scorers, right, you got to ride the wave, right? He's in really good form right now. But I want to go back to your point about the runs off the shoulder. I feel like we've come out of a couple of national team camps and have gotten the indication we need to find Flo Balogun because he likes to run off the shoulder. We need people to recognize that run, and Gio's one of those guys. And makes me think if you pair Gio, and we saw it, what was a Mexico game, right, where he snuck one in on that right-hand side, and Balogun scores, may even been his first goal for the national team if memory serves me right. But that type of run, Gio's a guy that can unlock that for players, as you said. But it makes me believe, do they start thinking now, well, Balogun makes those runs, he's our number 9, he's the starter, or do you go with the guy that is hot right now, and that's Haji Wright?
If you're asking me, I would continue with Balogun, Weah, and Pulisic. I think these three guys are going to be a cornerstone of how the team moves forward. Clearly, Gio, when he's fit and sharp, and like if he looks like he does last night, and still the question will be, given game fitness and the fact that he played what? So he played 75 minutes last night. Like, can he have a repeat performance? I think you have to start Gio, but the question is, how long will he be able to go and perform at that level? And by the way, this game has potential to be more open. That game didn't require so much physical output from the attacking players because Jamaica was so deep, especially in the second half, and it didn't require full game fitness. Mexico game will be different. But I think Balogun, and we've talked about this with Monaco, and when I've been in the stadium a couple times live to watch Monaco play, and Balogun is always making really good runs off the back line, but he doesn't always have players that are looking for that and are feeding him the right way. And then it's kind of led to Monaco taking him off the pitch and using him more as a reserve or out wide, which I haven't liked to see. I want to see him being successful and being a real striker. So I would continue with that. I would think Gio comes into the group. We can talk more about this tomorrow. But, yeah, I mean, I think you have to have a balance for this game of continuing in the process of what you're trying to achieve with the team, but then also looking at which players are ready and in form and are performing.
Just very quickly on that point, I thought that Balogun in particular, or maybe the team overall, we just didn't have that third person running. It wasn't consistent enough because Balogun, he puts himself in good spots. We play a good entry pass into him, and then there's nobody making that initial movement so that he can see it out of the corner of his eye and play him into that space. He's very good there, but if we're not making those runs, in fairness to Jamaica, I thought they were very organized.
Yeah, and I think the way it worked out was a lot of times because we would have some rotations on the wing on one side and the other, and Balogun's kind of waiting in the middle for something to develop so that he can be in the box. And at times it was almost like him against 3 center backs, or maybe 2 as they're shifting over. So, yeah, of course, could we find him a little bit more? Could we have the right kind of timing of runs? And then there was the discipline of the tactics in the first half where by about the 25th minute, there were players running all over the pitch. And the thing that I said even yesterday was, it's tough to be a player on the field when you have a tactical system and your expectation is that when you get balls specifically in tight spaces that you're expecting movement and ideas in certain spots with certain players, and they're on the other side of the pitch or they're on the back line, and then there's no real continuity to what you're trying to achieve.